الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Thank you very much, Brother Bishop Ponte and Frank, for that wonderful call to worship. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we now have the full flight ready to go. At this point in time, the chairman has to introduce himself because we don't want to create that space where we can buy more time, so we want to progress progressively. I'm Amara Kalon, the Deputy Minister of Political and Public Affairs, that housed the African Peer Review, the African Peer Review Mechanism of the African Union in Sierra Leone, so we serve as the focal point. So I'm going to be the pilot for today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here again for another moment in the history of Sierra Leone, wherein I have always said that it is time Sierra Leone tells its own story. And it is time that Sierra Leone contributes its own story to the African region. It is time that when you click on Google Sierra Leone, you will see the story that will attract you to this great nation. When you click the word Sierra Leone, you will see the pictures, the green scenery, the hospitality, the greatness and warmth embrace of the people of Sierra Leone. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to launch one of the most beautiful reports that Sierra Leone has ever produced for itself, with the help of the African Peer Review Mechanism of the African Union. We all know that for 60 years we have fought ourselves, our identity, as Sierra Leoneans to galvanize ourselves as a nation to move forward. In 2014 we have the Ebola that affected the Mano River Union, that is Sierra Leone, Guinea and Liberia. We saw wherein our health infrastructure was overwhelmed and completely destroyed. We see thousands of our friends, brothers, compatriots lost their life, and we still live with those memories and the griefs of those loved ones. But during that period, our story was not told as it was. Because everybody, the people that we had relied on generation after generation to tell our own story, they ran away from this country. They ran away from us. They left us in the cold to fight our own war. And so the story lives with us up to this day, until we have this targeted review that the African Peer Review Mechanism saw it fit with the call from our government that we need to review our health governance and look at our response to the COVID-19. Then we were able to understand the power of Sierra Leoneans, the power that we use to fight Ebola, how we resolved as a nation, how we agreed as a nation, wherein we brought our cultures and traditions together to fight the COVID-19, to fight the Ebola. And that experience was what we used yesterday, that we are still using today to respond to the COVID-19 in this country. So can we clap ourselves as well? So this report we are about to launch today speak to those issues, speak to those days, speak to what we did and what we are doing now as Sierra Leoneans, as our own contribution to the African region, to tell us that the Africans, we can still be what we want to be if we work as a region. We can still collectively tell our own story if we decide to invest in technology and driven by digitalization. We can still tell our story if we invest in education and intellectual capital. We can still tell our story by ourselves. We can still face the development agenda regardless of where Africa is today. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a panel of Africans, fine Africans, beautiful Africans from across African countries that are here today to share their experience, to learn from us, and also to join us in telling our own story. And so ladies and gentlemen, permit me to just introduce few among the rest, so that we know the people who are here today, and so that people can understand the relevance of why we are here. In our midst, we have the Honorable Minister Bomba Thomas, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs from Ghana. He is here on an experience sharing and experience gathering mission. Thank you and welcome, sir, to the land of our traditions. We have the Deputy Chief Administrative Secretary of the National Treasury and Planning in the Republic of Kenya, which is Honorable Eric Mafuku. Here on an experience sharing and experience gathering. You are welcome, sir. We have the State Secretary, Ministry of Justice, Honorable Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh. Welcome. We have our mom, Yabo. When she came with the team to Sierra Leone, she was the review the lead panel for that targeted review. And it will interest you to know that she has been here again on another review of our academic architecture at the Furabe College. So she has worked in Sierra Leone to see how they can look at the academic architecture of the Furabe College. And she came again for this health, governance and COVID-19 response as the lead panelist. And she's ambassador in Nonge, Bikusita, Lewanaki, in bracket, because she was crowned as Yabo and the doctor. She's the APR panel lead in charge of Sierra Leone. We have in our midst Dr. Honore Mugunda from the APR panel members. We have Ambassador Dr. Samori Okuya, the CEO of NEPAD APR Kenya Secretariat. We have in our midst Mrs. Janet Mabwa, who is the head of the Targeted Review Division of the APR. Amidst these fine Africans, we also have other people that came with us, so we call the names, and we call in the countries, and we stand as we call. We have from Zambia the lead, Mr. Bani Hampodela, the APR focal point and his team from Zambia. That one. We have Miss Winifred Akoto Sampon from Ghana. We have Mr. Mustafa Pham from Senegal and team. And we have Miss Sarah Hamuga and team from the APRM Continental Secretariat. We have from the Delaware State University, they have an organization called the Center for Global Africa. They have mobilized 120 black, historical black colleges and universities in the United States of America to see how they can transfer intellectual capital to Africa. And they've signed a pact with the APRM Continental, and Sierra Leone has been their foster as a model for their intervention. And among them we have Professor Ezra Aharoni, and we have Alicia Clark. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a team from Ghana, we have a team from Senegal, and we have those that participated from Zambia, from Namibia, from Mozambique, and across Africa in the 2 days that we have been here on the integration of the National Program of Action into the medium-term National Development Plan. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a host of ministers and deputies, commissioners, directors. You are all welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the next item on the agenda, and I want to welcome my minister,
my close body in my ministry, the Minister of Political and Public Affairs, who also doubled as the focal point for the African Peer Review Mechanism, Ambassador Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh, to give us
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Well, I hope I'm mentoring you very well. Honorable Vice President, colleague ministers of Sierra Leone and colleague ministers from sister countries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and excitement for me to be with you here today in support of the African Peer Review Mechanism, the APRM, an African continental initiative to subject our governance systems to consensual and mutual scrutiny. In Sierra Leone, health governance is central in our national development agenda, taking into consideration the fact that health sector constitutes a large number of our civil service workforce and receives substantial proportion of the country's national budget. Honorable Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, today's event marks the end of a journey that started way back in February 2020 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Since then, a lot has been happening behind the scenes, ranging from putting together a roadmap, visit of a targeted review mission team to Sierra Leone, led by Yambo Bose, Ambassador Madam Inongi Mbigusuta Diwanaki, to the final launch of the report we are gathered here to witness. Special welcome to you, Madam, and the APRM Continental Secretariat team, whose efforts have led us to this successful conclusion of the launch of the African Forum. I need not to overburden this august body with the genesis and concept of the APRM, but however, it is important to note that the APRM is the logical outcome of a number of African continental initiatives towards promoting good governance, promoting good governance, which decisively started with the launch of the African Governance Forum in 1997 on a platform of building consensus on governance priorities, strengthening partnerships among stakeholders with a view to promoting good governance in Africa. The AGF gave back in July 2001 to the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPA, which is a vision and strategic framework for Africa's renewal. In March 2002, the African heads of states and governments endorsed the establishment of the APRM as an instrument to monitor and evaluate African countries' progress towards the implementation of NEPA. The APRM, in brief, is therefore a process of performance evaluation by African government efforts to achieve the specific goals of NEPA for the transformation of the African continent through good governance. The targeted review on health, governance, and COVID-19 was carried out essentially to unearth Sierra Leone's strengths and weaknesses in the fight against COVID-19, with a view to proffering critical recommendations for strengthening Sierra Leone's health sector. Based on the proceeding, there is no gainsaying that the effective and efficient implementation of the APRM National Plan of Action derived from the targeted review on our health governance and COVID-19 shall go a long way to addressing some of the challenges facing our health system on one hand, and forms the basis for optimizing the gains made thus far on the other. Honorable Vice President, sir, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by calling on all Sierra Leoneans and our development partners within LeoneThat to support our health service initiatives so that collectively we can sustain the successes we have recorded at both local and international levels in our fight to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, and by extension, our overall health sector. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for that welcome address. And I think the doors are now open for us to move to the next program and commit ourselves to the agenda proper. And I think we are now, all of us here now can understand in summary who the APRM is, what they do, and why they do it. I will encourage all of you to read more about the APRM so that all of us as a continent will understand and be able to tailor our individual and collective agendas and energies towards the agenda of the APRM for a successful and sustainable Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to statements. I want to use this opportunity to recognize our diplomatic and consular corps who are present here today. You are welcome, and we appreciate you so much. We want to also recognize the executive chair of the APRM Sierra Leone, Dr. Charles Silva, the chairman for the National Governing Council of the APRM Sierra Leone, Mrs. Abigail Renner, and all NGC members who are present here today. We want to recognize you. We also want to recognize everyone that left and braced up themselves to join Sierra Leone in the midst of the third wave of COVID. They left their homes, their families, bought the flights, and they are all here today to join Sierra Leone in launching this report, and we give all of them and I will we want to start our statement from home. So we can start from home, then we move continental. So we are now bringing in Ms. Abigail M. Renner, Chairperson of the African Peer Review Mechanism National Governing Council in Sierra Leone. So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair, kindly allow me to stand on existing protocols. I am exceedingly happy that the review report on health governance and COVID-19 response in the Republic of Sierra Leone will be formally launched today. Indeed, a lot of hard work went into the preparations of this all-important document, and I cannot thank the contributors enough. Permit me, Your Excellency, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates from the various African countries, ladies and gentlemen, to reiterate three of the core mandates of the APRM National Governing Council, of which I am chair. They are providing leadership, strategic policy guidance and directions to the APRM process, including awareness and sensitization of the public. Ensuring the review process is technically competent, credible, and independent. Ensuring the integrity of the APRM process by keeping it transparent, inclusive, and accountable to the public. I am delighted to say that we have, even during COVID-19 restrictions, been largely able to fulfill our mandate. Thanks to the support and exertions of all our stakeholders. We shall continue to provide the necessary leadership and guidance, and equally importantly, constantly keep the public adequately informed about the general operations of the APRM, and more especially the contents of the review reports, to enlist their full participation in and ownership of the APRM process. Chair, in addition, we shall always endeavor to maintain our strategic relationship with the APRM continental structures so that they are of phase with our national plan of action. I cannot end this short statement without registering the NGC's profound thanks and appreciation to the government and people of Sierra Leone through Ambassador Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh, APRM National Focal Point and Minister of Political and Public Affairs, for his sustained support and advice to our council. Without this support, it would have been very difficult for us to succeed. I am hopeful that this support and cooperation will be sustained. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair of the NGC of the APRM in Sierra Leone. I think I don't need to reiterate awards again. It's speak for themselves. And it's clear that they have a government responsibility over the affairs of APRM, and the focal point has been very much working in line with them to make sure that we are here today. As we move along to the next speaker, let me also thank the team from NACOVA for the job they have been doing and continue to do, and their contribution to this targeted review. All health workers and frontline personnel across the nations that lend their voices to this review. We want to thank the Minister of Health and Sanitation for providing us with technical support and the technical thinking with an initiative that fits into this report. We want to thank you very much. The Ministry of Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Minister, we want to say thank you, sir, for allowing your baby document to be a little bit interfered with, and stretch a little bit with the recommendation from the National Program of Action. Thank you very much. We want to say thank you to Professor Al-Fatihuri. The period while we were doing this review, he was the Minister there of Health and Sanitation. And I think the team here can still remember him. Thank you very much, sir. The security outfit, we want to say thank you to all of you. It's a honor. The civil society organizations, your contribution are still speaking in that report. Your voices have been there as civil society organizations. The media, your glaring pictures, the stories you write around the COVID-19 and this report, they are still being seen and listened to
and will continue to be seen and listened to generation after generation. The APRM Secretariat, we want to say thank you for setting up this stage for us to be here today. Thank you. We move to the next item of the agenda, and I have this honor to bring to the stage Madam Janet Mao. She is the Targeted Review Senior Coordinator at the APRM Continental Secretariat to read the issue statement on behalf of Professor Eddie Maloka, who is unavoidably absent here today as a result of flight delay. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Excellencies. Good morning, everybody. I would really like to apologize on behalf of the CEO. The flight at Leone was cancelled and even this morning, so he's not able to be here with us. So I'm going to read his statement. We would have really loved to be here. This is the first targeted review that is being launched, and he really wanted to support us, but we hope he's going to come today and be able to meet Your Excellencies throughout this week, the rest of the week.
So if you allow me, I'll read his statement. Your Excellency Dr. Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh, Vice President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Dr. Francis Kaikai, Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. S. Austin David, Minister of Health and Sanitation in Sierra Leone, Ambassador Cordelia Keller, APRM Focal Point and Minister of Political and Public Affairs in Sierra Leone, Excellencies, Cabinet Ministers of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Ambassador Leone Ibusita Lewanika, APRM Panel of Eminent Persons in charge of Sierra Leone, Honorable Boba Thomas, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ghana, Honorable Eric Simiyu Ofuko, Deputy Chief Administrative Secretary and the Deputy Minister for National Treasury and Planning, Honorable Mamadou Saliso, State Secretary, Ministry of Justice, Senegal, Ms. Abigail Rene, Chairperson of the NDC, Dr. Charles J. Silva, Executive Chairperson of the NDC in Sierra Leone, members of the APRM National Governing Council, members of the APRM National Secretariat, members of the public, the private sector, the development partners, members of the civil societies, women groups, NGOs, and also people with challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Good morning. I'm pleased to stand before you today on this August occasion. Indeed, we are gathered here to witness the launch of the Targeted Review Report on Health Governance and COVID-19 Response in the Republic of Sierra Leone. Today marks an important step in the direction of the completion of an audience review journey. The decision to carry out a targeted review during the year 2020, when an unprecedented pandemic rocked the world, was bold and commendable. Allow me therefore to congratulate wholeheartedly His Excellency the President and the Vice President and your government for leading this beautiful country whose pristine white sand beaches are famous across the globe. The commitment of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Your Excellency, to the APRM and the targeted review process is an inspiration to us all. Not only have the country successfully and safely conducted a targeted review during a difficult year of the pandemic, but you've also today, amid a pandemic afflicting much of the world, organized flawlessly the launch of the targeted review report. I stand here before you to say a few words on health governance, a topic which merits serious attention for policy and decision makers. The proliferation of diseases and viruses, if unchecked, will be a menace to Africa's long-term development aspirations, inadequate infrastructure, lack of clean water, drinking water especially, and sanitation are some of the pressing challenges we need to address urgently across our beloved continent. In the future, the resilience of the health systems will be critical for the growth of our economies, the openness and accessibility of our trade routes, and the stability
As we reflect on the period of 2014-2015, when the Ebola outbreak claimed the lives of thousands of Sierra Leoneans, many gains made in the fight against HIV and AIDS were reversed. The country's medical and human resources were immensely stretched. It is important to note that Sierra Leone took this as an opportunity and put up structures for the future. These structures were activated in November 2019, 4 months before WHO declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Today, Sierra Leone is a leading example in Africa and indeed the world in the containment of the COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, efforts are being made to produce COVID-19 vaccines in Africa. These initiatives are laudable and clear to need a more systematic approach to dealing with health hazard, and what is happening in Senegal is also laudable. We need to factor them into our policy making and development blueprints. We must prepare contingency plans to circumvent this while fine-tuning our early warning systems and strengthening our medical capacities and capabilities. Cognizance of the need to consider and confront disaster as a salient governance issue, the APRM embarked upon the revision of its questionnaire. This was executed with an assistance of various stakeholders, and there's going to be a workshop in the next 2 days to discuss the fifth thematic area, which is on state resilience and disaster management in Sierra Leone after the launch. As the fifth thematic area, leading to member states finding sustainable solutions to mitigate unforeseeable challenges. The targeted review on health governance and COVID-19 response has deepened Sierra Leone's participation in the APRM process. The technical exercise has laid the ground for us. Lastly, I would like to sincerely express my utmost gratitude for the hospitality extended to the various participants of this launch. I take this opportunity once again to congratulate His Excellency retired Brigadier President Julius Maada Bio, Vice President Dr. Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh, the government and the people of Sierra Leone on achieving this milestone. I thank you for your kind attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need another round of applause. So, in my initial submission, I was it's like I was the sorcerer here, you know, and my, how will I say, my vision has now, or my dream has now become a reality in words. It speaks for itself. That Sierra Leone, we can do it. And Africa, we can do it more better. And the world, we can do it best. I think our beaches are now swinging the dog. If you go to the dog, you will see our beaches. And that's why Professor Manuka has referred to those beaches. And for our colleagues, I think they've seen the goodies of Sierra Leone. We look at the grey, white, and blue, from the forest green to the beach white and to the water blue. So it tells the color of Sierra Leone. Thanks so much for that recommendation. We want to offer our hearts to those who have lost their lives as a result of this COVID-19 and Ebola pandemic, together with the one's life. We want to offer our heart to them and pray for their souls to rest in peace. And I think our practices and experience from Sierra Leone is why the APRM is here, to see how that can be integrated into a continental response to shocks, disasters, and pandemics. And I think Sierra Leone will be proud of that. And we should be ready to make sure that we bring out more initiatives for the world and Africa to compete. And we will continue to do that. So thank you very much now for that great work. And we send our greetings to Professor Manuka, and we will be felt his absence. Yes, for our argument. Ladies and gentlemen, We now move to the next item on the agenda. We now call on herself, the Mamina Power, the lead panelist for the targeted review in Sierra Leone, Ambassador Enongi Dikusita Liwanika, the APR panel member in charge of Sierra Leone, and his name, Jalloh.
Thank you, Chair. We get a PhD for my name. Your Excellence, Dr. Juldeh Your Excellency, Dr. Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh, Vice President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Ambassador Forde Yamukela, the APRM focal point and Minister of Planning and Public Affairs in Sierra Leone, who has been wonderful supporting and encouraging us. And lots of this success is due to him. Honorable Cabinet Ministers, Honorable Deputy Ministers from Sierra Leone and our sister countries, Excellencies, members of the Sierra Leone government, and the delegations from the other African countries. As Madam Janet has said, unfortunately, Professor Maloka is stuck not so far from here in Leone due to flight connections, and I know his heart is here, is with us in spirit and is listening. Madam Abigail Rena, Chairperson of the NGC in Sierra Leone, Dr. Silva, Chairperson and Chief Executive of the Secretariat of the NGC in Sierra Leone, members of the APRM National Governing Council, members of the APRM National Secretariats, members of the public and private sector, civil service, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning. Kushe kushe. It is my honor as a member of the APRM panel of eminent persons to witness this celebrated day of the official launch of the targeted review report on the health governance and COVID-19 response in the Republic of Sierra Leone. It is indeed a noted ceremony, and we are very excited to be here for this target review, and we have been gaining momentum and have started its implementation since 2019, and increases and the implementation continues. We personally conducted 4 successful targeted reviews as APRM in Djibouti, Namibia, and 2 in Zambia. And this one now in Sierra Leone on health governance and COVID-19 response. It is with a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment that we are gathered here to help launch the targeted review report, and it is clear indication of the commitment, trust, and faith of the citizens of the Republic of Sierra Leone in the targeted review process and their ability to promote Sierra Leone. With an independent, credible, legitimate analysis and recommendations to speak to questions and challenges regarding health governance and COVID-19 response in this country. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are launching the targeted review reports on this day under the unusual and restrictive conditions imposed on us by COVID-19 pandemic. For instance, we have a limited number of people, and many of us were interested to come, not only in Sierra Leone, but in the neighboring countries. But we have to adhere to the Ministry of Health guidelines and regulations, and we are happy to do so, and we know that this message is still going to be spread far and wide. On 11th March 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. Since then, Africa has seen widespread rises in both infections and death rates caused by this pandemic. As of June 30th, 2021, the continent has recorded 5.3 million cases of COVID-19 and have been battling with a third wave of infections, driven by more contagious and deadly variants. Indeed, the WHO has estimated that the continent recorded 3.9% increase in the new cases in the week of June from 14 to 20, June 2021. The third wave of this virus infection is set against the backdrop of the global COVID-19 vaccine rollout, in which Africa seems to have been left out. So we are very happy to hear the news of member states taking their own initiative to do the solutions so that we can catch up, and then the next time we can lead our own nations without waiting for other people. According to the WHO, about 1.5 of all the world's COVID-19 vaccines have been administered in Africa. And according to CDC Africa, only 1.07 of the population of Africa have been fully vaccinated as of 30th June 20 Africa. Oh God, come to our aid, have mercy. To many experts, if swift action is not taken immediately, as was the case at the onset of the first wave in Africa, Africa may soon experience catastrophic failures in its health system. The challenge for Africa's health system is to remain ready to provide the full range of all services needed to prevent, diagnose, isolate, and treat COVID-19 patients while providing full coverage to the other health services, even with the respect of all the other ongoing and some that are finished, like HIV/AIDS and malaria. It is for this reason that the topic of health governance and COVID-19 response is so relevant to the present and future, and the government of Sierra Leone has already recognized how they should master this and conquer this virus. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the launch of the Sierra Leone Targeted Review Report that is taking place today is a culmination of different activities, such as the future sensitization meeting held between 25-26 June 2020 with the participation of the APR and focal points, various members of the Sierra Leone National Governing Council and the Continental and National Secretariat, and finally, here we are with the targeted review. Throughout the Republic of Sierra Leone, demonstrated its willingness to undertake a targeted review of health governance and COVID-19 response in the country, and I therefore would like to congratulate His Excellency the President, retired Brigadier Julius Malala for the leadership he has shown in his commitment and that of the Republic of Sierra Leone to the APRM and the targeted review process. This is again demonstrated in the willingness of Sierra Leone to embark on second generation country review in the near future, and we are looking forward to this with great anticipation and excitement, and we congratulate the country of Sierra Leone. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, however, despite weaknesses, the government of Sierra Leone has learned from its experience with Ebola to be today the shining star, not only in this continent of ours, but in the world, on how to prepare to deal with COVID-19, as well as preparing for future emergencies that may come. Member states have a lot to learn from Sierra Leone as well as other nations in the world. For instance, the country implemented strategies that are largely regarded as proactive and innovative to prevent the pandemic from devastating effects. The strategies include the Quick Action Economic Response Program, whose primary objective is to be able to respond to the health crisis as well as to mitigate the socio-economic challenges that emerge because of this pandemic. Sierra Leone is one of those countries that was not just looking at the pandemic, but also trying to look at the economic effects of the people and to solve some of the problems and to help their own people. Other measures include a robust screening at the airport for all passengers coming to the country, quarantining of travelers from countries regarded as epicenters, engagement with local leaders to enable the use of local structures to sensitize the process, promoting the use of hand washing facilities in public places, including offices. And Sierra Leone is one of the few that have gone ahead actually to make their own sensitization mechanism and sanitizers. Again, this is an economic advantage that other member states need to learn to help their own people. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I will conclude my statement by saying that there is no issue that can remain unresolved when we stand together. Through different strategies adopted by the government of Sierra Leone and the recommendations of the targeted review reports, we are confident, and there is no doubt that Sierra Leone is going to triumph and continue to be a shining star and set the pace and example to the other member states. Given that the population is expecting quite a lot from this targeted review report, it is my sincere desire to see that the government of Sierra Leone implement the recommendation of the targeted review that will contribute to improve socio-economic conditions and well-being of the people of Sierra Leone, as well as to communicate this report effectively to all the citizens of Sierra Leone in their languages and the styles that they understand best, including songs and dances and dramas and community heroes. I also believe that the Republic of Sierra Leone will successfully implement the recommendation of the targeted review reports, motivated by the same spirit of coordination of efforts, collaboration between political parties that the Republic of Sierra Leone demonstrated during the Ebola outbreak. I thank you, Your Excellency.
Let's appreciate ourselves. And I think she has given us a synopsis of what the report entails. And ladies and gentlemen, we have been on this from February. The review was done in November and December. In March, His Excellency the President presented himself and the report before his colleagues, heads of state, under the API and 45 of them to be here on what was in the report. And today, 2 days back, on Tuesday and Wednesday, we have been busy here trying to see how we can integrate the recommendations from this report into the medium-term national development plan. Today we are here to launch the report. Friday and Saturday, we'll be here again on another continental workshop looking at another pillar that has been added into the pillars of the African peer review mechanism. I was reading the report that was referred to under that fifth pillar, and the report made it clear that in Africa, every year in Africa, around 92 shocks and disasters and pandemic occur across Africa. 92. So it tells you that from that report, Africa is gradually becoming, prone to shocks and disasters. And that means, as a continent, we need to start looking as to how collectively we can galvanize our resources and our assets, put them together, and start to work towards a common approach towards fighting these shocks and disasters happening in Africa as a result of our activities on Earth. So, and I think the takeaway from her statement was the fact that His Excellency the President, retired Brigadier Dr. Julius Malabio, was very strong enough, was very passionate enough, and very convincing enough to put himself in front and say, I and my people and my government, we are ready to be peer reviewed and meet the challenges and meet the pressure. But he positioned himself and said, APRM, I'm ready. Can you look at my health infrastructure? Can you look at our health, our response to the COVID-19 and tell us what we have done good and what we need to do to make sure that we save the lives of our people in this country? And today, give me another round of applause for that. It's great. And he's a military man, and he has done it. He has braved himself. He has faced the realities of life. And that is what we call good governance. A leader that is ready to take the lead and position himself on behalf of his people. And the key word here, Sierra Leone is a shining star. Sierra Leone is a shining star. But holding here, it tells us that we shouldn't lose back. We need to fight more. We need to commit ourselves, not only to the COVID-19 response, but also to good governance in its entirety. So we need to look at it holistically. This is just one of the shining stars. But how can we continue to be more and more shining star is when we make sure that all of this is galvanized towards an agenda of good governance as individuals and as a nation collectively. So ladies and gentlemen, I now bring in Dr. Honore Mubunda, member of the APR panel of eminent persons. He's not around. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming back home. We have brought the line back. I want to bring in to you our finest man. Whenever I bow into his office, before coming out, for the first time I met with him, I felt the warmth of an academic and a technician. and that is the Minister of Health and Sanitation for the government of Sierra Leone, Dr. Austin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think throughout this morning's sessions, we heard a lot about NGC. I believe you mean the National Governing Council. NGC means something else locally. Honorable Vice President, Dr. Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh, the Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Francis Kaikai, the Minister of Political and Public Affairs, Ambassador for the UNTELA, colleague ministers, the Executive Chairman of the APRM National Secretariat, the Chairperson of the APRM National Governing Council in Sierra Leone, Chairperson of the APRM Panel of Eminent Persons, members of the press corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, I welcome the delegation from the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, APRM, Secretariat, and the APRM sister countries. You have spent 2 days in a technical workshop on the integration of the APRM National Plan of Action into the Sierra Leone National Development Plan. This was with a distinct focus on health governance and COVID-19 response. I wish to thank His Excellency the Vice President, Dr. Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh, the entire government and people of Sierra Leone for being one of the countries to undertake a targeted review on health governance and the COVID-19 response. It is indeed a mark of quiet confidence and bold leadership to ask one's peers to review a sister country's efforts in the response to COVID-19. This is a big achievement for the government of Sierra Leone that we're all so proud of. As a critical initial step in Sierra Leone's response to COVID-19, the President, Brigadier Retired Dr. Julius Malavio, established a national multi-sectoral coordination entity, the National COVID-19 Emergency Response Center, formerly called NACOVAC, with its decentralized district-level structures, the District COVID-19 Emergency Response Centers, DICOVER. This initiative created a space for all line ministries, local government, multilateral, bilateral, and non-governmental institutions to actively participate in the national response, leveraging the complementarity and synergistic competencies that reside within the ministries and our domestic and international partners. The Ministry of Health and Sanitation, with our focus on the biomedical response, will continue to work very closely with our development partners to ensure that even as we respond to COVID-19, that basic healthcare services remain accessible to those most in need throughout the country. This is especially relevant for women and their children. As the global threat of COVID-19 intensified, coordination structures that proved to be very effective during the 2014-2016 Ebola outbreak were reactivated to support our COVID-19 response efforts. Donor support to Sierra Leone's national COVID-19 response has been extensive. The assistance has been effective and efficient principally because of the very strong leadership shown by Sierra Leone in every aspect of the response. This is best exemplified by the Presidential Task Force that is chaired by the President himself. This body brings together all key stakeholders on a regular basis and after rigorous debates provides options for the President to make decisions. These decisions are then operationalized by NACOVAC and all other implementing partners. Key thematic pillars including surveillance, case management, laboratory, supply chain, community mobilization, risk communication, and vaccines are all being coordinated by an interpillar team that meets regularly. Procurement of essential bulk commodities, from diagnostic tests to personal protective equipment to oxygen concentrators to vaccines, are done in a consultative and coordinated manner, taking into account the comparative advantage of each of the collaborating partners. The science of surveillance and epidemiology has led us to understand our epidemic at the national and subnational level. It has also allowed us to see the disease burden and trends, as well as threats from surrounding countries. Understanding these numbers has helped us mount robust countermeasures that allowed us to contain the first and second waves of the COVID-19 outbreaks in this country. It is also helping us to manage the third wave, which has gone down from daily incidence reports in triple digits to single-digit reports over the last few weeks. In the process of responding to this and similar outbreaks, Sierra Leone has completely transformed from a paper-based surveillance system to a digital system that has broad implications for healthcare delivery in general. For our laboratory services, the COVID-19 pandemic allowed us to develop molecular diagnostic capability and capacity throughout the country. Now, 6 labs are certified to perform RT-PCR assays. Combined, these labs will perform more than 1,000 tests a day. Important to note that the platform used to test for COVID-19 could also be used for Ebola virus, for Marburg virus, and for Lassa fever virus. Sierra Leone continues to make great strides in our COVID-19 vaccination efforts, having vaccinated over 150,000 individuals. With the additional doses of vaccines that arrived over the weekend, we intend to mount a robust campaign that will increase our vaccine uptake and coverage considerably. COVID-19 holding, isolation, and treatment centers are fully equipped and staffed, but continue to show low occupancy rates, which is a really good news for Sierra Leone. The 3 thematic areas for the APRM: improve governance and leadership, improve human resource allocation, and improve health financing, clearly show where the Ministry of Health and Sanitation should continue to put greater emphasis going forward. Let me use this opportunity to assure the APRM that Sierra Leone remains committed to be a part of a continent-wide process as that envisioned by the APRM. We fully support our collective endeavor to ensure that Africa is able to protect, prevent, and robustly respond to emergencies, especially in the health area. With pride, I'm pleased to report that Sierra Leone was one of the first 10 countries in the continent that ratified the African Medicines Agency (AMA) treaty. To tell you how serious we are as a nation, treaties that normally take years to ratify was ratified by the Sierra Leone Parliament in 10 days. The Honorable Vice President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention and wish our APRM sister participants God's richest blessings and travel mercies as you return home. God bless Sierra Leone and God bless us all. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Dr. Demi. Treaties that would take years was ratified in 10 days in Sierra Leone. It tells you how we are serious about fighting COVID and also strengthening and building on our existing health infrastructure. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from Dr. Debbie about our response to the recommendation recommendations in the National Program of Action. And I think we've already gone forward, in positioning ourselves. So it seems as if we saw it coming from the report. And the good thing about it is that I think Sierra Leone has already established a national disaster management. And that's one of the recommendations from the report. And I think we have the Director General here, retired Brigadier Brian Is he there? Thank you very much, sir. So, and I think while we fight the COVID-19, we also need not to forget about the other health issues across the country, which were clearly defined by our minister. The issue of child mortality, the issue about teenage pregnancy, the issue about malaria, the issue about HIV, the issue about hepatitis B. So as we go about in mobilizing the resources, we are also making sure that as a country to move along with all those health factors and health indicators that affect our country. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to advise and encourage all of us here that the third wave of COVID-19 is here. From laboratory evidence, the Delta variant is in Sierra Leone, and we need to make sure that we put ourselves and make ourselves available for the vaccine. Let us go for the vaccine. Let us forget about those fake stories and fake news and those subjective thinking about people who want to see more lives, more deaths being reported on a daily basis. Let's focus on saving our own life. We don't have no excuse to tell God tomorrow that I was not born. To be forewarned is to be foreharmed. So we move to the next item on the agenda. As I clearly stated before, 2 days back we have been working on the integration of the National Program of Action to the Medium-Term National Development Plan, which we have already completed. And the custodian of that National Development Plan, is Dr. Francis M. Kaikai, the Minister of Planning and Economic Development. And I think it's high time that we have him here to tell us his own story as the custodian of the National Development Plan. You are welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me use the opportunity to, recognize our Vice President for, sitting on top of this program this morning. Our distinguished ministerial colleagues from Sierra Leone and our sister countries, our distinguished guests from the APRM, again from the AU and Sierra Leone. I also want to recognize our distinguished guests, academic guests, who are coming also from the United States. And ladies and gentlemen who are here, I want to recognize all of you. And if we have our development partners here, I also want to recognize you because your role in this is really very important. Mr. Chairman, permit me to thank the African Peer Review Mechanism and the Ministry of Political and Public Affairs for organizing the official launch of the targeted review report on health governance and COVID-19 response in the Republic of Sierra Leone. We are very proud and elated as a nation that our President, His Excellency Dr. Julius Maada Bio, availed himself to the peer
assistance in the leadership of our continent during a very difficult period when the whole world is fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. That was indeed a feat that he undertook to carry through such a difficult period. As a Ministry of Planning and Economic Development, we are very eager to receive key recommendations from the targeted review report for incorporation into our national development planning and implementation processes. Even more gratifying for us is the timing of the presentation of this report, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Vice President. Firstly, our medium-term National Development Plan 2019 to 2023 is due for mid-term review, and the process has just started. Therefore, whatever recommendations will come from this review, we believe will be built into that into our national development plan. Secondly, the Ministry of Finance has made a budget call circular for the commencement of the next national budget preparation for 2022. I see this also as another opportune moment, but there's a huge chance for a seamless integration of the agreed policy actions into the review of our medium-term national development plan. So in many respects, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Vice President, there is a chance for us to really incorporate whatever the outcomes are, the recommendations are into our processes. Despite the appropriate timing of the official launch of the report, the Ministry is conscious and mindful of the task involved in transforming the key policy recommendations in the National Action Plan, which must align and resonate with Sierra Leone's focus on promoting human capital development. And human capital development is our President's, in our President's considered view, is a pathway to achieving sustainable development for shared prosperity of our country and the African continent. Honorable Vice President, distinguished guests, as Minister responsible for national planning and coordination of sustainable development in Sierra Leone, I would like, on behalf of my ministry, to assure the APIM Secretariat that we are ready and committed to providing the requisite support necessary for the attainment of the overall objective of conducting the targeted peer review. Let me conclude, Honorable Vice President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, by underscoring the importance of coordination at every level of this process. The Honorable Minister of Health and Sanitation did mention the Presidential Task Force, which brings together all its players. And that's the way to go. And I believe that will be the way to go also in implementing the targeted recommendations, which we expect from this report. So at the institutional level, at the national level, at the regional level, at the local level, we expect strong coordination among all the key players. And I also dare to say we need strong coordination with our development partners. We need strong coordination from the non-state actors, from the NGOs, from the civil society, from the local authorities. Their participation in this process is key, and implementing some of the, most of the recommendations will play a key role in that. Finally, also, resource mobilization remains critical to this process. Here we need full participation again of all these key players. So it's not just the executive, but also Parliament. We need their cooperation, we need their support. Development partners, I have to underscore again, they are key in this process, not only as donors, but also as international non-governmental organizations.
We know what role you have played also in fighting COVID-19. So full cooperation going forward, I think is really very key. And Honorable Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased that these partners are part of this process. And going forward, as a ministry, we will continue to do collaboration to ensure that whatever is recommended here does not stay on the shelf, but becomes implemented. Because, you know, as an administration, I have to tell our guests who are coming from outside, it's a talk and do administration. So whatever we say we'll do, we'll try to do by all means. That's the mantra here at Sierra Leone. So on that note, let me thank you all very much for your attention. And thank you again, our APRL team, for coming to Sierra Leone. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Francis Ekai. I think let me borrow from my honorable Vice President, Dr. Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh. I recall and I remember one day, you know, I always visited him not because I want to be there, but anytime I have the opportunity to sit with him, I go back home well filled with knowledge, you know, to engage. And in his words, and that has resonated across Sierra Leone, that the word power is an ideology. The word power is a Creole word, which means no matter what, it has to be. So for us, it's an ideology, and it resonates with the slogan, talk and do. What you say, you do it. And you do it powerfully for the sake of the citizens of this country. Thank you very much, Mr. for making me to understand that much better. From Dr. Kaikai's success fund, the midterm review of the National Development Plan is ready. So meaning the National Program of Action is timely. So meaning the integration is just on time. And he gave us an assurance that the platform will be provided for the implementation of the National Program of Action. And he made it clear that it also comes at a time when the Ministry of Finance has called for ministries to submit their budgets, so a budget call. So it's also timely because the National Program of Action goes with the budget. So it's very timely also. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we are now well positioned. And let me not forget that we re-emphasize and reiterate the role of development partners and locals in the implementation of the content of the National Program of Action. And that's why we have our friends here from the Delaware State University, Ezra and Alicia. They have signed a pact with the APRM, and they are here to see how they can integrate that pact into the implementation of the recommendations of the National Program of Action. You're welcome. I think we had a good time yesterday, and we'll have a good time today and tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, the state is now ready to listen to another break of Africa. So brace up well, ladies and gentlemen, as I call on our Vice President, Honorable Mohamed Juldeh Jalloh.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly sit down, please. Mr. Chairman, honorable ministers, colleague ministers from all African countries, members of the APRN panel of eminent persons, and the APRN Secretariat, distinguished delegates from across Africa and other multilateral institutions, let me, on behalf of His Excellency the President, welcome you formally to Sierra Leone, and on a more personal note, on behalf of His Excellency the government and the people of Sierra Leone, to thank the APRN for choosing Sierra Leone to conduct a targeted review on health governance and COVID-19 response. I want to thank the team, which I had the honor to receive a couple of months ago in my office, and also jointly with the Excellency the President. I want to thank them for a job well done, as we now have the report today, which clearly outline some of their key findings, recommendations, and best practices they want us to share and to learn from sister countries. I want to thank you for that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is clear from the report and from the narrative across Africa and the rest of the world that the outbreak of COVID-19, particularly in most sub-Saharan African countries, constituted a big test for healthcare delivery. We saw it in this country, we saw it in Africa, and we also saw it in advanced countries like Italy, also the big brother United States of America. That pandemics of this nature test the solidity of healthcare delivery. But what is interesting, that in Sierra Leone, like the Minister of Health clearly outlined, we were able to brace ourselves up at a very early stage under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Julius Jalloh. In Sierra Leone, three key elements constituted the success story. First was leadership. We had a president that took the fight from an early stage and built the necessary institutional framework to respond. Second was experience. As a country that had experienced Ebola before, we drew back from those sad realities to reorganize and reposition ourselves. Another important element was technology, digitalization, like the Minister of Health just highlighted. That was key. We brought in digitalization to be able to manage surveillance, data gathering, so that every action we took at the Presidential Task Force was informed by data gathering. But what was more important about our experience is when we realized that the COVID-19 pandemic tested the solidity of our healthcare delivery facilities, we automatically carved out a vision and a method how we wanted to respond. That is, we realized that we have to carve our response. We see it like a bridge, to build a bridge between our response and the future of healthcare delivery in Sierra Leone. What does that mean? It means that whatever we decided to do and whatever we are doing today, we have in mind the focus that we need to strengthen healthcare delivery so that in no time in the history of this country that future pandemics can disintegrate and obstruct healthcare delivery. So as a result, we elaborated what we call the Quick Emergency Economic Recovery Program. we try to integrate both the clinical, the social, and the economic aspect of fighting COVID-19. We rolled out an economic plan, and I want to thank the current Chief Minister of Jalloh, who was then Minister of Finance, who elaborated a fine program with a team of experts, how as a small and fragile economy, we will not be crippled by COVID-19. That was a success story, and that is a program that we share with so many African countries. I will not name them here for reason of protocol. But what was interesting is that our response was conceived as part of a preparatory stage to build the future of healthcare's delivery in Sierra Leone. The Minister of Health has already stated that today we have laboratories, we have healthcare facilities that can meet the test of time, but more importantly, that can prepare us for any future pandemic. But that was one of the key things that helped us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are here to launch this report. Like previous speakers before me have said, that it is not always easy for somebody to call an outsider to examine and analyze what they are doing. His Excellency took that bold step, and today we are very pleased and happy that the African Union, under the APRL mechanism, have now come to Sierra Leone. They have undertaken findings. They have now published a report where they have acknowledged the positive step and the gains we have made as a country. And I want to thank the APRM and the African Union for that acknowledgement of what we have done as a country. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today you realize, you will agree with me, that response of health governance cannot be insulated from the international dynamics. Meaning, today, the next stage of the response is about vaccines, vaccines, and vaccines. Current statistics today show that in the high-income level countries, 46% of people living in high-income countries have received at least one shot. Today, in middle-income countries, 20% of the population in middle-income countries have received at least one shot or two. But low-income countries, of which almost all sub-Saharan African countries, have received 0.9% of vaccines. 0.9% of the entire population of low-income countries, including Sierra Leone, have only received one shot or two. When you look at those statistics, you realize that global vaccine equity remains a challenge. So I want to use this opportunity to add my voice to all those African countries and other global leaders to call for global vaccine equity. And that if we continue at this pace of wherein 46% of high-income country population have received the shot and 20% for middle level, and still less than 1% for low-income level, it means that if we don't address vaccine inequity, it will take a couple of years before every African gets vaccinated. So I want to add my voice to that call, particularly as we are looking towards the post-COVID recovery. Today, when we talk about post-COVID recovery, it's essentially around three things. One is the value system. The value system of where poor, low-income countries have to scale up the advocacy to ensure that their population are vaccinated. Second is about addressing the economy. Make no mistake, we are now beginning to feel the socio-economic impact of COVID-19. It is a slow motion impact, but we are feeling it. In 2020 alone, Sierra Leone lost about $2 billion in revenue. That is about nearly 1.5 trillion, I think, in Leone's revenue. That is very massive for a small economy like ours. So the post-COVID recovery is going to be critical. We want to see how multilateral institutions like the African Development Bank, like the World Bank, the IMF, to factor post-COVID recovery, not only in terms, in pure economic terms, but to look at the social dimension as well, which means very strong social impact of population. Because what we saw in South Africa is a vivid example of how the slow motion impact of COVID-19 can translate itself. So on that note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we as a country want to add our voice for the waiver of intellectual property rights on the fabrication and production of vaccines so that poor countries, so that African countries will have access to vaccine. On that note, I want to use this opportunity on behalf of His Excellency, the government and the people of Sierra Leone to thank the peer review team and to let them know that we take good note of their recommendations and we take good note of the best practices they have shared with us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today we are priding ourselves as one of the few African countries with very limited resources that have done very well. I don't need to reiterate what our Honorable Minister of Health has just said. And I'm also very particularly pleased that our health governance systems is going to be integrated into the National Medium-Term Development Plan. And I want to personally thank the Minister of Economic Development and Planning for that effort. Be rest assured, I also want to take the opportunity to thank our brothers and sisters from Delaware University, who have also, in their only two efforts, tried to see how we can share experiences in the areas of scientific and social research to help move the governance agenda in this country. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me use this opportunity on behalf of His Excellency, the President, the government, and the people of Sierra Leone to formally launch the targeted review on health governance and COVID-19 response in the Republic of Sierra Leone.
Another round of applause for the performance of that statement. I'm sure by protocol I have no authority. To summarize this statement. But this permits me to say thank you very much, Mr. Honorable Vice President. Ladies and gentlemen, we now call on Dr. Jalloh to make the closing statement. Dr. Jalloh.
Dr.
Dr. Silva is the executive chairman for the African Peer Review Mechanism.